There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, but from absence. The absence of a child who once needed you for everything, and now seems to need you for nothing. The absence of a grandchild whose smile once lit up your home, but now feels like a distant memory. If you've ever sat alone at the kitchen table, wondering what went wrong, praying for a sign, or just longing to hear your name spoken with warmth again, this message is for you. Estrangement in families isn't always loud. Sometimes it grows quietly, through hurt left unspoken, misunderstandings left unresolved, or choices that created invisible walls. And now, as the years go by, the ache deepens. Not because you've stopped loving them, but because you don't know how to reach them anymore. But let me tell you something. God has not abandoned your story. Even when doors seem closed, He is working in the silence. Even when hearts feel cold, He is still the God who softens and restores. There is a way forward, not one of forcing or begging, but of healing, grace, and gentle courage. This isn't a video of quick fixes. It's a journey of the heart, a path that many elders like you are walking, with pain in their chest, but hope still alive in their souls. You are not alone in this, and you don't have to carry this burden in the dark, because sometimes, before you rebuild the bridge, you first need to heal the one waiting on the other side. If any part of this touched your heart, if you've ever felt the sting of distance from someone you love, I invite you to pause for a moment and let yourself be seen. Leave a like if this message is already resonating with something deep inside you. It helps this video reach others who might be carrying the same quiet pain. And if you've ever lived a moment like this, waiting, hoping, praying for restoration, write in the comments. Share your story, even if it's just one sentence. You never know who might find comfort in your words, or who might whisper me to through their tears. And if you're new here, or if you've been walking with us quietly, this is your invitation. Subscribe to the channel and walk this path with us. Here, we believe your story still matters, your wisdom still speaks, and your faith still moves mountains. This is a place where age is not the end, but the unfolding of a greater purpose. Now, take a deep breath. We're just getting started. They used to run into your arms, didn't they? Small feet rushing across the floor, eyes lighting up just to see you. And now, there's just silence, a phone that doesn't ring, a message that never comes, a name you whisper in your prayers, hoping it reaches them even if your voice no longer does. It's a pain that only grows with time, because time keeps moving, and they keep getting farther. And yet, here you are, still loving, still hoping, still waiting for a chance to say, I'm here. I never stopped being here. But how do you even begin to rebuild a bond that's been broken for so long? How do you approach someone who once called you family and now treats you like a stranger? The truth is, before the healing can begin out there, it often needs to start in here, inside the heart. Not with grand gestures, but with quiet courage. Not with perfect words, but with an open spirit. Sometimes, the first bridge is built in silence. In that sacred space where you surrender what you can't fix, and ask God to soften what you can't reach. Many elders carry a deep ache that no one sees. They don't speak about it at church. They smile through it at family gatherings, when they're even invited. And at night, when the lights go out, they ask the question no one wants to voice out loud. Did I fail? But estrangement isn't always born from failure. Sometimes, it's born from confusion, miscommunication, choices made in pain, or wounds passed from one generation to the next. And sometimes, it's not about right or wrong. It's about time, pride, misunderstanding, or silence that was never meant to last this long. If you're watching this and you've been carrying that weight, I want you to hear something clearly. This is not the end of your story. Restoration is possible. Not always quickly, and not always in the way we imagine, but God's grace is not limited by years or by distance. His power to restore doesn't fade with age. In fact, some of the most beautiful reconciliations happen later in life, when the noise has settled and hearts are finally ready to listen and to forgive. But it starts with you. It starts with the quiet decision not to let bitterness write the last chapter. It starts when you say, even if they never come back, I will still choose love. I will still pray. I will still believe that God can do what I cannot. That's not weakness. That's spiritual strength. That's wisdom. That's faith that has weathered storms and still stands. Think about it. When was the last time you prayed for them? Not with anger, not with sorrow, but with hope. When was the last time you imagined them being well, even if they're far? When you do this, you start shifting something. Not outside, not yet, but inside. And that's the ground where reconciliation grows. Sometimes the first step isn't reaching out, it's reaching inward. Looking at your own heart with honesty and grace. Asking God to heal what has hardened. Asking yourself what you truly want, to be right or to be whole. This isn't easy. No one's pretending it is. But healing isn't for the easy-hearted, it's for the brave. And if you're still watching, you're already braver than you think. There's also something sacred about preparing the way, even if the other person hasn't yet chosen to walk toward you. Like John the Baptist in the desert, you begin by clearing the path, even before you see their footsteps. Maybe your way of preparing the path is writing a letter you may never send, or praying their name every morning before breakfast, or forgiving them, even without an apology. These quiet acts of faith create a soft landing for the day they might finally come home, even if only in spirit. And if you're asking, but what if they don't come back? What if I try, and nothing changes? Then here's something to hold on to. You are not doing this for the outcome. You are doing it for the obedience to love. That's what makes it holy. That's what gives it power. Not whether it's received, but whether it's true. And when you live from that truth, you become the living message they might one day hear. So, let this moment be the beginning of something different. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply sincere. The kind of beginning that doesn't need an audience, only a heart that's ready. And if any part of this message stirred something in you, a memory, a name, a tear you tried to hold back, write just one word in the comments, still here, because you are. And sometimes, just being here, still loving, still hoping, is the most powerful act of faith we can offer. There's a kind of grief no one talks about. It doesn't come with flowers or condolences. No one brings meals to your door. There's no ceremony, no closure. Just an invisible ache that lingers in the quiet corners of your life. It's the grief of loving someone who is still alive, but no longer present. And for many elders, this silent sorrow becomes part of the air they breathe, a constant presence, even in their most joyful moments. Estrangement from a child or grandchild creates a strange emptiness. You find yourself reliving memories that used to bring warmth, and now only bring tears. Birthdays pass, holidays come and go. You wait for a knock that doesn't come, for a message that stays unsent. And the hardest part is that the world keeps spinning like nothing happened. You learn to smile in public, but in private, your soul whispers, "This hurts more than I can say." It's okay to name that pain. It's okay to grieve what was and what should have been. Some people will tell you to move on, to let go, to focus on yourself. But when your heart has been tied to someone for a lifetime, you don't just untie that knot. You carry it, and pretending it doesn't hurt only deepens the wound. So, today, let's speak it aloud. This grief that hides behind the polite smiles and the "I'm fine" answers. God sees the tears no one else sees. He hears the words you never say. And in His presence, you don't have to be strong for anyone. You just have to be real. You can lay it all at His feet, the disappointment, the confusion, the guilt, the longing, and He will not turn away. He never does, because God doesn't just heal physical sickness. He heals soul wounds. He binds up the brokenhearted. He walks with those who mourn, even when the world doesn't recognize what you've lost. He honors the pain of a parent whose arms are still open, even when the door has been closed. And here's the truth. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean saying what happened was okay. Healing means giving your pain a voice, so it no longer rules your silence. It means choosing to let love soften you, not harden you. It means saying, yes, this hurts, while also whispering, but I'm still here. You are not weak because you feel deeply. You are not foolish because you still hope. And you are not alone in this sorrow. So many others carry the same silent ache. Maybe someone watching this right now feels it too. Maybe someone in your town, in your church, in your family, is waiting for someone to say out loud what they've been holding in their heart for years. So let's say it together. This pain is real. This grief is real. And yet, so is grace. So is mercy. So is restoration. You are not forgotten, even if it feels like they've forgotten you. You are not unworthy, even if they've turned away. And you are not abandoned, because the God who formed you in the womb has never left your side. Let this be the space where you don't have to wear a mask, where your story matters, where your sorrow is safe. Let your soul breathe here, knowing you are heard, you are loved, and your healing has already begun. Most relationships don't break in a single moment. They unravel quietly, thread by thread. One misunderstanding here, one hurt word there, and then, slowly, the silence begins to stretch. What used to be daily conversations becomes once a week, then once a month, and eventually, nothing at all. You look back and wonder, when exactly did it all begin to fade? What was the moment it shifted? But the truth is, it usually isn't one moment. It's many small ones, layered over time. Maybe it was something you said that they never got over. Maybe it was something they said that you never addressed. Or maybe it wasn't words at all, but choices, seasons, distance, pride, expectations, or simply the pace of life, pulling people in different directions. And while you were hoping time would heal, time instead built walls, slowly, quietly, almost without notice. It's hard to admit this. It's painful to look back and realize that 1,000 small things became a canyon between you. But if we don't name how the distance happened, how can we begin to walk back across it? This is not about blame. This is about understanding, about compassion, about holding space for the reality that two people can hurt each other, even when both were trying their best with what they had at the time. You might be tempted to say, they changed, or they never listened. But healing begins when we can also ask, where might I have gone silent? Where might I have stopped showing up with softness? Where did I carry pain instead of sharing it? These are not easy questions, but they are holy ones. They open the heart not to judgment, but to grace. Many older parents and grandparents feel confused, even shocked, by the distance that formed. After all, you remember the laughter, the hugs, the trust that once existed. But sometimes, we see the story through our own eyes, and forget that the other person was living it from another angle. What was a moment of care for you might have felt like control for them. What felt like protection for you might have felt like silence to them. What was never meant to hurt might have left a wound you never saw. This doesn't mean you're guilty of everything. It simply means you're willing to see the full picture. And that kind of humility has power. It softens the soul. It allows God to start working in places we've been protecting. Because the goal isn't to win an argument, it's to win back connection. And that starts with a heart that says, I'm willing to see things clearly, even if it costs me comfort. Sometimes, the road to restoration is not about fixing the past, but understanding it, looking at it with gentleness, letting the Holy Spirit reveal the places where fear, pride, or confusion took root. And when you see it, you can bring it before God, not in shame, but in surrender. You can ask, Lord, show me what I need to release. Show me what I need to understand. Show me what I didn't see before. When you do this, the soil begins to change. The ground becomes softer. The conversations that once seemed impossible begin to feel less threatening. the heart becomes more open, not only to the other person, but to God's plan for healing. And remember, you are not doing this alone. You are not walking this path on your own strength. The God who restores generations walks with you. He sees every effort. He honors every step toward peace, even if they don't see it yet. God does, and He's already at work on the other side. Before you send that message, before you pick up the phone, before you ask someone to come back into your life, something needs to happen inside of you, because restoration doesn't begin with their response. It begins with your readiness. Many elders wait for a sign, a signal, a moment when the door opens. But what if the first door that needs to open is not theirs, but yours? What if God is more interested in healing your heart than in rushing the reunion? Sometimes, we carry pain for so long that we forget to tend to it. We focus so much on the silence of the other that we stop listening to our own soul. But the truth is, no matter how far they are, the deepest work begins within. This is the sacred space where healing starts, in prayer, in tears that finally have permission to fall. In quiet mornings where you whisper their name, not in frustration, but in blessing. It may not seem like much on the outside, but something eternal is taking place. God begins softening what the years have hardened. He begins restoring not just what was lost between you, but what was lost inside of you while you were grieving in silence. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it is a choice, a daily surrender. It doesn't mean you pretend nothing happened. It means you refuse to let bitterness grow where love once lived. It means saying, even if they never apologize, I will not let this pain shape who I become. And that kind of forgiveness is not weak, it is powerful, it is freeing. It is the kind of forgiveness that Jesus modeled, the kind that says, Father, forgive them, even in the middle of rejection. Some people wait years for a moment of closure. Others spend decades hoping someone will come back and make things right. But real closure doesn't come when they return. It comes when you let go of needing them to. It comes when you entrust their heart to God and begin tending to your own with grace and patience. This is not giving up. It is growing up in the Spirit. It is maturity in Christ. It is knowing that peace is not dependent on another person's decision, but on your surrender to God's process. And in this process, something beautiful begins to unfold. You start seeing them, not just through the lens of what they did or failed to do, but through the eyes of compassion. You remember that they, too, are wounded, confused, shaped by fears and stories you may not fully understand. And from that place of healing, you begin to change the tone of your thoughts. Instead of, why don't they care? You begin to pray, Lord, help them find peace. Instead of, I didn't deserve this, you start saying, God, teach me how to love like you love. These small shifts in the heart prepare the way for something holy to happen, maybe later, maybe slowly, but deeply. When you let God work in your heart first, you become the safe space they might one day return to. You become the unchanging place of grace. And whether they come back or not, you will have become someone softer, stronger, more like Jesus. That is the kind of healing that cannot be taken away. That is the kind of restoration that begins long before the first word is spoken. So if you are wondering where to begin, start here. Not with a perfect plan, not with the right words, just with an honest prayer. Lord, prepare my heart for whatever comes. Heal me first. Make me whole again, not just for them, but for you. There are things you've wanted to say for years. Maybe they're words of love that never found the right moment, or words of sorrow that felt too heavy to speak. Maybe there's an apology inside you, or a blessing, or a simple I miss you that never made it past your lips. And now, as the silence stretches on, you might wonder if those words still matter. But they do, even if no one hears them out loud, even if they remain between you and God. Sometimes the most healing thing you can do is write the letter you're afraid to send. Not to blame, not to convince, but to release. To put on paper what your heart has been carrying in secret. This is not about outcomes. It's about truth. About freeing the voice within you that has been quieted by years of fear, regret, or pride. Because healing doesn't always begin with a conversation. Sometimes it begins with confession, not to them, but to the page. You might start writing and realize that your heart still holds more love than you expected, or more pain, or more memories that surface like soft waves. This process isn't about the perfect phrasing, it's about presence. It's about showing up honestly to your own story, allowing God to meet you in the words that never found their way out. And sometimes, in those unsent letters, something sacred happens. You begin to see them not only as they hurt you, but as the child you once held. The voice that once called you grandma, the person you still remember dancing in the kitchen or crying in your arms. That's when your heart begins to soften again, not because they earned it, but because grace makes room for that. You don't have to send the letter. Maybe you will, one day. Maybe you'll keep it in a drawer, or tear it up after writing, or leave it at the foot of the cross in prayer. The act itself is healing. It's an offering. It's a declaration that you are no longer waiting for the other person to free you. You are choosing to walk in freedom now, even if the road is still quiet. Some people record voice messages to no one, just to let the words be spoken out loud. Others talk to God in long, trembling prayers, naming what they miss, what they regret, what they hope for. Others cry in silence, and that too is a form of prayer. The point is not the method. The point is movement. Movement of the soul. Movement toward release. Movement toward peace. And maybe, as you pour those words out, God begins to write something new in you. A new strength. A new compassion. A new clarity that doesn't depend on how the other person responds, but only on how faithfully you are choosing to love through the pain. There is something holy about writing words no one may ever read. It means you believe they are still worth saying. It means you haven't given up on meaning, on truth, on the quiet power of grace. And even if the letter never reaches them, it will reach you, and it will remind you that your voice still matters, that your love still speaks, that your hope still breathes. So take the pen, or open a blank page. Let the words come. Let the tears fall, if they must. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. This is the heart doing what it was created to do, to feel, to remember, to release, to heal. After so much time, after silence or conflict, it's natural to wonder, is there still a chance? Is the door closed for good, or is there still a small crack of light shining through? These questions often weigh heavily on the heart. And while there's no clear formula, there are signs that can guide us. Subtle ones, gentle ones. Signs that require not pressure, but prayerful attention. Not urgency, but grace. Sometimes, the signs are quiet. A comment liked on social media. A message passed through another family member. A birthday remembered. A look that lasts a little longer during a brief encounter. These may seem small, but in the language of healing, they can speak volumes. They can mean, I'm still watching from a distance, or I'm not ready yet, but I haven't let go completely. Other times, the signs are less visible, and this is where faith comes in. Just because they haven't responded, doesn't mean they don't read your messages. Just because they haven't called, doesn't mean they don't remember your voice. People process pain in silence. They build walls not always out of hate, but out of fear, confusion, or unhealed wounds. What looks like rejection on the outside may actually be self-protection on the inside. This is why discernment is so important. To see with spiritual eyes, not just emotional ones. To ask God, not what should I do, but when should I move? And how should I love in this moment? When the heart is clouded by longing, it's easy to push. But love, true love, waits with wisdom. It respects space while still keeping the porch light on. If you've sent a message and received no answer, don't assume the story is over. If the door has been shut, don't assume it's locked forever. Even a closed door may have someone standing on the other side, listening, thinking, praying, aching just as much as you are. This is why we don't move by emotion alone. We move by grace, by gentle signs, by a peace that doesn't come from human response, but from divine timing. Sometimes, that sign may come when you least expect it. A text after years, a sudden question asked by a grandchild, a photo from the past shared in a family group. And in that moment, your heart will know, not because you forced it open, but because you were faithful while you waited. But what if the signs never come? What if the silence stays? Then your calling remains the same, to love from a distance with dignity, to intercede in prayer without expectation, and to live with a heart that stays open even when the door seems closed. Because that is the love Christ modeled, a love that doesn't retreat when wounded, a love that stays near even when it's not seen, a love that chooses patience even when it costs everything. So ask yourself quietly, not, are they ready to return? But am I ready to notice the small signals? Am I open to grace, even if it doesn't look like what I imagined? Can I keep loving, even from afar, with a heart that is not bitter, but beautifully soft? These are the questions that form the soul of restoration. This is how bridges are built, not in leaps, but in small, sacred steps. If you feel something stirring inside you right now, a name, a moment, a sign you may have overlooked, let it rise gently. Let it be your prayer this week. Lord, help me see what you see. Help me hear what is not being said. Help me walk by grace, not by fear. When the heart is full of longing, it's easy to imagine the reunion happening all at once, a phone call that fixes everything, a hug that melts the years, a sudden moment where all is forgiven. And while that dream is beautiful, restoration usually begins more quietly. Often, it starts not with a breakthrough, but with a whisper. Not with a big gesture, but with something so small, it might almost be missed. Maybe it's a message that simply says, thinking of you today. Maybe it's sending a photo from the past, one where you were both smiling. Maybe it's mailing a handwritten card for no special reason, or leaving a voicemail with a calm, kind tone. It could be offering help in a moment of need, or dropping off a gift with no expectations in return. Small steps, gentle ones, actions that carry no pressure, only presence. And while these steps may seem insignificant, they are sacred, because they don't come from control, or fear, or a need to fix. They come from love. And love, when it is sincere, does not force its way back in. It simply knocks and waits. It says, I'm here, without demanding the other person respond in kind. These small acts are seeds, and seeds do not sprout overnight. They need patience. They need consistency. They need the warmth of grace and the water of prayer. Some may fall on hard ground at first. Others may take root without you even seeing it. But what matters most is that you are sowing something true, something kind, something rooted in God's character. There is a strength in doing the simple thing, in choosing gentleness when you feel desperate, in choosing peace when your mind wants to rush, in showing up with quiet hope instead of loud frustration. Because it's not your words that will open the door, it's your spirit. It's the tone behind the message, the humility in the gesture, the love that asks for nothing in return. And if you fear being ignored, remember this: God sees. God knows the courage it takes to extend a hand after years of silence. He honors the step, not the result. And even if they do not respond, your act of love will not be wasted. It will shape you. It will bless them, even if they cannot yet receive it. Some bridges are not rebuilt by confrontation. They are rebuilt by consistency. A presence that does not disappear. A kindness that does not expire. A faith that keeps standing at the gate, not begging, not accusing, just staying available, quietly, peacefully, prayerfully. So ask yourself, what is one small thing I could do today? Not something to get their attention, not something to win them back, but something that reflects who you are in Christ. A gesture that says, I have forgiven, I have healed, I still love you. That one act, as small as it may seem, may one day become the door God uses to write a new chapter in your story. Even if it's just lighting a candle and whispering their name in prayer. Even if it's asking God to bless their life from afar. Even if it's saying, quietly in your heart, I release this moment to you, Lord. These are not small things. In heaven's eyes, they are mountains moved by faith. You took the step. You sent the message. You prayed. You waited. You reached out with love in your voice and gentleness in your heart. And then, nothing. No reply, no reaction. Just the same quiet space you were hoping to fill. That silence can feel heavier than any word. It can bring back the ache, the questions, the fear that maybe nothing will ever change. This is where many people give up. They feel forgotten again, rejected again, unseen all over again. But this moment, right here, is holy ground. It's the place where your love is no longer attached to outcome, but to obedience. Where you stop measuring success by how someone responds, and start measuring it by how faithfully you chose to love anyway. There is a sacred strength in loving without receiving, in showing grace when it goes unnoticed, in offering peace to someone who may not be ready to receive it. This does not mean you are foolish. It means you are faithful, because true love, the kind God calls us to, is not proven by the applause it gets, but by the quiet way it keeps showing up, even when no one sees. You might ask yourself, what now? You've tried, you've prayed, you've opened the door of your heart, and yet they remain distant. This is when your heart must turn again toward the one who has never left you, the one who sees every tear you hide, the one who understands what it feels like to love and not be loved back, to knock and receive no answer. Jesus knew rejection, he knew silence, he loved deeply, and many turned away. Yet, he never stopped loving, he never stopped hoping, he never stopped inviting. And when you walk through this same path, when you love without reply, you are not alone. You are walking the road that he walked, and he walks it now with you. This may also be the season where God protects your heart by holding the silence in his own hands. Maybe the person you are longing for is not ready. Maybe their heart is still hard. Maybe there is work God is doing in them that you cannot see, and it takes time. Not everything delayed is denied. Sometimes, silence is part of the story that still needs to unfold, and while you wait, your healing continues. Your identity is not built on their return, but on God's promises. You are still a mother. You are still a father. You are still a grandparent. That role cannot be erased, even if they try to forget it. Your love still carries weight in heaven. Your prayers still rise like incense. Your presence still matters, whether they acknowledge it or not. This is where your faith becomes real. Not the kind of faith that waits for things to get better, but the kind that stands in the quiet and says, even if nothing changes, I will remain kind. I will remain hopeful. I will remain steady in love. Let your soul rest in that truth. You are not waiting alone. You are not being ignored by heaven. God sees it all. He counts every step, every sigh, every small act of love, and he is already moving in places you cannot reach. This is where trust becomes your anchor. Not in what they do, but in what he is doing behind the scenes. So do not lose heart if they do not respond. It does not mean your effort failed. It may simply mean your role right now is to pray, to remain open, and to live with peace, knowing that the story is still being written. Some people have stories where reconciliation comes quickly. A phone call, a tearful hug, a long conversation that opens the door again. And while those moments are beautiful, many others live a different kind of story, the slow miracle. The kind of restoration that doesn't happen all at once, but in quiet layers, one small moment at a time. Maybe it's a single message after years of silence. Maybe it's your grandchild suddenly asking about you, even if the parent still hasn't reached out. Maybe it's an unexpected update, a shared memory, or a softened tone in a conversation. These are not just coincidences. These are seeds of something new, and while it may take time to grow, your faith is what keeps it alive. God often moves slowly, but with purpose. He does not rush healing. He prepares the soil first. He works in the hidden places. He softens hearts quietly. And while you may not see everything He is doing, you can trust that nothing is being wasted. Not your tears, not your prayers, not your years of silent love. There may be times when it feels like nothing is happening, but the truth is, something sacred might already be taking place beneath the surface. God may be working in their dreams. He may be sending other people into their lives to speak words that you once tried to say. He may be stirring their memories, allowing them to miss what they once took for granted. Faith in these moments is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about standing on what you cannot yet see, believing that what God began, He is faithful to complete. Even if your reunion doesn't come quickly, it can still come meaningfully. Even if you never hear the apology you long for, you can still witness healing in unexpected ways. Sometimes, the miracle is not that they come running back. Sometimes, the miracle is that you stayed loving without becoming bitter. That you kept your heart open, even after all that was said or not said. That you chose mercy over resentment, blessing over blame. This is the kind of miracle that transforms you, regardless of what happens on the outside. You may never get the exact moment you imagined, but God often replaces what we hoped for with something deeper. A quiet peace, a new kind of strength, a restoration that is not loud, but lasting. A healing that starts from within and flows outward in His perfect timing. And then one day, perhaps, when you've stopped expecting it, something changes. A sentence, a step forward, a small act of trust, and you'll realize the miracle has already begun. It didn't look like you planned, but it looks exactly like grace. It came slowly, but it came faithfully, and in the end, it shaped your soul more than any quick answer ever could. So do not despise the slow days. Do not rush the quiet work of God. Let your heart stay open, not because of what you see, but because of who you trust. The one who still brings prodigals home. The one who leaves the 99 for the one. The one who always knows when it is time. You may have spent years praying with no visible answer. You may have wept quietly behind closed doors, asking God to bring your child or grandchild back to your life. And while the silence may still remain, your prayers have never been in vain. Every word you've whispered, every tear you've cried, every moment you've surrendered, heaven has recorded it all. Nothing is lost. Nothing is wasted in God's hands. Sometimes, we believe restoration is only real when the relationship is repaired. But God's idea of restoration reaches deeper. He restores peace to the soul. He restores dignity to the one who was rejected. He restores joy to the one who has loved in silence. And even if the family bond never looks like it used to, the healing in your spirit can be fuller, richer, and more beautiful than you imagined. And here's the part that often goes unnoticed. Your journey is not just about you. Your quiet love, your steady prayers, your faithful heart may be the very bridge that connects generations. You might be the one God is using to break cycles of bitterness, to plant seeds of grace, to write a new legacy for your family. Not through force, not through grand speeches, but through your unwavering presence and your willingness to forgive. You may not see the full fruit of your faith in this season, but it will grow. Maybe your child will come back. Maybe your grandchild, one day, will search for you. Maybe the healing you have prayed for will come through a door you didn't expect. But even if it doesn't, your life still speaks. Your love still echoes. Your surrender still shines. Because God's love never stops at one generation. He is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He sees beyond what we can. He honors the faith of those who stand in the gap. And if you're the one holding that space, if you're the one who continues to pray, to bless, to stay open, then you are doing holy work, whether the world sees it or not. You are the evidence that love still lives here. You are the one who keeps the light on. You are the reminder that God is still moving, still healing, still writing new chapters from old wounds. And every time you choose forgiveness over resentment, tenderness over silence, prayer over despair, you become a living invitation for healing to begin. So stay tender, stay open, stay faithful. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are strong because you have loved through the pain. And in God's hands, nothing you've done in love will return empty. The story is not over. And you, dear soul, are still part of the miracle that is unfolding, even now. You have walked through silence, through longing, through the ache of love that waits with open arms. You have prayed prayers no one else heard, wiped tears no one else saw, and carried a hope that many would have already buried. But you didn't. You held on. And maybe today, you still don't have the response you were hoping for. Maybe the phone is still quiet, the door still closed, the name still unspoken. But in the quiet of your heart, something has shifted. Not because the story outside changed, but because the story inside you has been touched by grace. God has seen it all. The patience, the sorrow, the strength it took to remain kind when no one returned your kindness. And He is not done with your story. He is not done with their story. He is not done with the bridge you have chosen to become, the bridge of mercy, of gentleness, of faith that endures. You may never know how your prayers protected them. You may never see how your love softened their hearts in moments of struggle. You may never hear how your name brought comfort to them in the dark. But one day, in this life or the next, the seeds you've sown in faith will bloom. So walk forward with peace, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer walking alone. You are walking with God, and when you walk with Him, even the silence speaks. Even the distance holds meaning. Even the waiting is filled with purpose. You have done what love requires, and that is enough. Your story is still sacred. Your voice still matters. Your prayers are still working, and your heart, even broken, still beats with eternal hope. If you made it to the end of this message, it's because something touched your heart. Maybe a memory, maybe a name, maybe a quiet ache you've carried for years. If this spoke to you in any way, don't leave without taking one small step. Subscribe to the channel so you can continue walking this journey with us. Here, you are not forgotten. Here, your story matters. We are building a space where faith, healing, and reflection walk hand in hand, and we would be honored to have you with us. Comment below with the words I receive if this message reached your soul, or still believing if you're holding on to hope. These small declarations can open doors in ways we don't always see. Leave a like if this brought you comfort, strength, or clarity. It helps this message reach others who may be silently waiting for a word like this. And if you're ready to keep growing in faith and peace, the next video is already on the screen. Click to watch and continue this journey of healing and restoration with us. You are not alone, and you never were.